Hello everybody, okay, so in this video we are looking at oblique collisions. So what are oblique collisions? So oblique collision is where two objects collide at an angle to one another. So kind of like this. So let me just kind of restart it all here now. Just bonk, like that. Right, two objects are just kind of colliding at angles to one another. So what's important about this section here? Right. So we always take the line joining the centers at impact as the I-axis. So when you're doing these problems, what you do is you draw a line through the two centers of the circle, and this will become our I-axis, and that is where we're kind of calculating everything relative to, right? So the spheres are smooth, so the force only acts along the I-axis. This means the I velocities change during impact, right? So what's special about oblique collisions is the J velocities don't change. So it's just, right, two things colliding like this, right, there, like their I components aren't changed. So the J components aren't changing, but the I components are. So they're kind of still going the same velocity in the J way, but nearly opposite velocities in the I component. Not always, but sometimes. So J velocities stay the same because there are no forces acting in that direction. So that is very important to note. So, and then Newton's law of restitution, again, only applies to the I velocities. So what we do is very similar to the last section. You set up a table with your velocity before, your mass and your velocity after, right? So in this case, right, we leave our velocities in the I and J vectors. Then afterwards, right, we say the J components are equal to each other. So again, we still kind of leave our I components as like P and Q. And then we do the same as before, right? So what we do for oblique collisions is, step one, we decompose the velocities into I and J components if necessary. So if we're given what angle it is at the I axis, right, we can decompose then my velocity into I and J components. Right, let the J components equal each other. So you let the J components equal each other. So the J component before is equal to the J component afterwards. That might set up an equation we may use. We then apply the conservation of momentum along the I-axis only, and then we apply the Newton's law of restitution along the I-axis only, and then we solve for unknowns, usually like P and Q, but whatever you prefer. And then if we are asked to ever calculate the angle of deflection, we recall this formula you may have learned, right? Cosine theta is equal to the dot product of my velocity before times the velocity after, all over the speeds multiplied. Or you can use the angle between two lines formula from coordinate geometry. So let's have a look at a question here. Right, two smooth spheres of masses 3 and 2 kg collide obliquely. When moving with velocities 3i plus 2j and minus 2i plus j respectively, where I is along the lines of center at impact. If the coefficient of restitution is 3/4, find their velocities after impact. So fill in your table. So we have before, mass, after. So before, my first sphere is just 3i plus 2j. Its mass is 3. And afterwards, we're going to say it's pi plus 2j. So what does this kind of look like here? So we have two spheres. This sphere 1, sphere 2, it's kind of moving then like this. And then the other sphere is kind of moving in the opposite direction like that, because that's with the minus 2i. Oh, excuse me. Right, then the second sphere, it's minus 2i plus j, and its mass is 2 kg. Afterwards, we say its I component is p, and then its j component stays the same, so we say it's 1j. Next, we apply the conservation of momentum along the I-axis. So 3 times 3 equals 3 times p plus 2 times minus 2 plus 2 times q. So I'm going to be left with over here 9 minus 4, which is 5. So I'm left with 5 is equal to 3p plus 2q. That's my first equation. Then my second equation is applying Newton's Newton's coefficient of substitution. So it's p minus q all over 3 minus negative 2, so it'll be 5, is equal to minus e, which is 3 minus 3/4. So multiply across by 5, I'm left with p minus q is equal to minus 15 over 4. Right, which is equal to p minus q is equal to minus 3.75 if you don't feel like working out with fractions. So now we solve these two equations for p and q. So 3p plus 2q is equal to 5. Then I'm going to multiply this equation here by 2. I'm going to left with 2p minus 2q is equal to minus 7.5. Add them up, I'm left with 5p is equal to minus 2.5. P is going to be equal to minus a half. And then therefore, if p is equal to minus a half, so minus a half minus q is equal to minus 3.75. Minus q then is equal to minus 3.75 minus 3.25. Q is equal to 3.25. Right? So my velocity after for sphere A is going to be just minus a half I plus 2j. And then the velocity after for sphere B is just going to be 3.25i plus 1j. And there we go. Now we're asked to find the angle of deflection for A. So what an angle of deflection is basically. So if we look here, this is the path of sphere A before it collides with sphere B here. So it's kind of going this dotted direction here. It then bounces off the sphere here and then goes this direction. So it's being deflected this angle here, and that is what we're trying to calculate here. So we can use this cosine rule here. So it's the dot product of u and v times the speed. So first let me calculate the speeds. The speed of u is equal to the square root of 3 squared plus 2 squared, which is equal to root 13. And the speed of v, which is equal to 0.5 squared plus 2 squared, which is root 4.25. Then the dot product, if you remember your dot product, it's just the I components multiplied together plus the j components multiplied together. So it's going to be 3 times minus 0.5 plus 2 times 2, which is minus 1.5 plus 4, which is equal to 2.5. So cosine theta is equal to 2.5 over root 13 times root 4.25. root 4.25. So cosine theta is going to be roughly equal to 0.3363. Theta is then equal to cosine inverse of all of this. Therefore, the angle of deflection is roughly equal to 70.35 degrees. And then we can get the same answer here by using a different formula. So we could treat these vectors like lines, yeah? And we can use your angle between two lines formula from coordinate geometry in your maths course. So how we do that is I need to kind of calculate the slope of this vector. So if you remember, tan theta is equal to the absolute value. So that gives me my acute angle. M1 minus M2 all over 1 plus M1 M2. So we need to calculate the slope of two lines. So my slope of this line is just going to be my j component over my I component, so 2 over 3. And then this one is going to be 2 over minus 0.5, which is minus 4. So, sub it in. Tan theta is equal to 2/3 minus -4, which is plus 4, all over 1 plus 4 times 2/3. Tan theta is equal to plus 4 minus 4 here, times by minus 4. 1 times minus 4 times 2 over 3. It's going to be equal to minus 7 over 4, but with the absolute value, that gives me kind of my acute angle. So tan theta is equal to 7 over 4. So tan inverse of 7 over 4, and that should give me my same answer. Kind of. Let's see. Double check my maths here. So 2 over 3 plus 4 over 1 plus minus 4 times 2 over 3. Sorry, minus 14. Minus 14 over 5. So we make that a positive. So tan inverse of 14 over 5 is equal to 70.35 degrees, right? So you can get the same answer doing both. It really, so this is introduced into newer course. So the newer exam questions, you're probably going to end up maybe using this formula. But then sometimes it's actually easier to use this formula, especially if you kind of ask to prove something, like show that tan theta is equal to something, you know? So it really depends on the question. So that's why it's important to have both tools in your arsenal. Right. I hope that video was some help to you guys. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye.